When I was just 7 years old, my world shattered. I remember the squeal of tires, the smell of rain on hot asphalt, and then silence. A car accident had stolen my parents, leaving me an orphan in a world that suddenly felt too big and too quiet. My only remaining family was my Aunt Carol, my mother's younger sister. In the beginning, she seemed like a lifeline. She hugged me tight at the funeral, her perfume a strange mix of flowers and something bitter I couldn't name. She promised to take care of me, to love me like her own. I believed her. I had to. Moving into her house was a blur of unfamiliar rooms and hushed whispers. Aunt Carol lived in a pristine home where everything had its place, including, it seemed, me. At first, the changes were small. My brightly colored toys were packed away into a dusty box in the attic, replaced with more appropriate decor. My laughter, which once filled my own home, was now met with a sharp hush. You're being too loud. The warmth I craved was replaced by a sterile, cold order. Soon, the small changes grew into a mountain of chores. While other kids in the neighborhood played outside after school, I was scrubbing floors, washing dishes, and dusting furniture that was never allowed to be used. My hands, once soft and small, became chapped and red. Aunt Carol would inspect my work with a critical eye, her lips pursed in a thin line of constant disapproval. "Not good enough," she'd say, pointing to a speck of dust I'd missed. "Your mother would be so disappointed." Her words were sharper than any slap, a constant, painful reminder of what I had lost. I had a cousin, Mark, who was 2 years older. He was her golden child. He got new clothes, the latest video games, and anything his heart desired. My clothes were secondhand, often too big or too small, and my only toys were the ones I could sneak from the attic when Aunt Carol was out. Mark would parade his new things in front of me, a smirk on his face, knowing I could never have them. He wasn't just spoiled. He was cruel, a miniature version of his mother. He'd accidentally trip me, spill juice on my homework, and then watch with delight as Aunt Carol blamed me for being clumsy or careless. I learned to become invisible, to move through the house like a ghost, hoping to avoid their notice. School became my only escape. It was the one place where I wasn't just the orphan girl who did chores. I was Sarah, the girl who was good at math, the one who loved to read. I devoured books, losing myself in stories of adventure, magic, and, most of all, happy families. The library was my sanctuary. The kind librarian, Mrs. Gable, would save new books for me, her warm smile a stark contrast to the coldness I faced at home. She'd ask how I was doing, and I'd always say fine, because how could I explain the truth? How could I explain the gnawing emptiness, the constant feeling of being a burden? One winter, when I was about 12, I came down with a terrible flu. My body ached, my head throbbed, and a fever left me weak and shivering. I hoped, naively, that Aunt Carol would show some compassion. Maybe she would make me some soup or bring me a cool cloth for my forehead, like my mom used to. Instead, she stood at my doorway, her arms crossed. "You're not getting out of your chores that easily," she said, her voice dripping with suspicion. "Get up and clean the kitchen." A little work never hurt anyone. I dragged myself out of bed, my vision swimming. I remember collapsing while trying to wash the dishes, the sound of a plate shattering on the tile floor. The last thing I heard before I blacked out was Aunt Carol yelling about how clumsy and useless I was. I woke up in my bed. For a moment, I thought I had dreamt it all. But then I saw a bowl of lukewarm soup and a glass of water on my nightstand. It wasn't my aunt who had put it there. It was Mark. He was standing awkwardly by the door. "You looked really sick," he mumbled, not meeting my eyes. He didn't say anything else, but it was the first crack in the wall of cruelty he had built around himself. It wasn't much, but it was a flicker of something human, and I held on to it. As the years went by, I focused all my energy on my studies. My grades were my ticket out. I knew that if I could get a scholarship to a good college, I could finally leave that house and start my own life. I studied late into the night, using a small book light to read under my covers after Aunt Carol had turned off all the lights. I aced my exams, joined the debate club, and wrote for the school paper. Every achievement was a silent act of defiance, a step closer to freedom. Mrs. Gable, the librarian, helped me with my college applications, writing a glowing recommendation letter that made me cry when I read it. She saw me, truly saw me, not as the charity case, but as a determined young woman with a future. The day my acceptance letter came from my dream university, with a full scholarship, I felt a surge of triumph so powerful, it almost knocked me over. I held the letter in my hand, my ticket to a new life. I expected Aunt Carol to be dismissive, to find some way to belittle my achievement. But when I showed it to her, her reaction was something I never expected. She just stared at the letter, her face pale. For the first time, I didn't see anger or disapproval. I saw fear. The fear of losing her maid, her scapegoat, the person she had built her own fragile sense of superiority upon. In that moment, I didn't feel anger towards her. I just felt a profound sense of pity. Her entire identity seemed to be wrapped up in controlling me, in making me feel small so she could feel big. Without me, who would she be? The weeks leading up to my departure were strange. Aunt Carol was quiet, almost withdrawn. The constant stream of criticism slowed to a trickle. Mark, who is now a senior in high school, was also different. He started talking to me, asking about my college plans, about what I wanted to study. One evening, he came to my room and apologized. He apologized for all the years of taunts and cruelty. "Mom, she was always jealous of your mom," he said quietly. "She was prettier, more popular, and your dad chose her. I think seeing you was like seeing a ghost of someone she could never be." It didn't excuse anything, but it was an explanation, a glimpse into the bitterness that had poisoned their home long before I arrived. The day I left for college, Aunt Carol stood on the porch, looking small and lost. She didn't hug me or wish me well. She just handed me a small, worn envelope. "Your mother wanted you to have this when you turned 18, she said, her voice barely a whisper. I opened it on the bus, watching her house disappear in the distance. Inside was a letter from my mom, written just before my 7th birthday. It was filled with her love, her hopes, and her dreams for my future. She told me how proud she was of me, how smart and kind and wonderful I was. She also left me a small savings bond, money she had been putting away for my education. Tears streamed down my face as I read her words, but they weren't tears of sadness. They were tears of love, of release, of finally reconnecting with the person who had loved me unconditionally. My aunt had kept this from me, another small act of cruelty, but she couldn't keep my mother's love from me. It was inside me all along. College was everything I dreamed of and more. I made friends. I explored new subjects, and for the first time in a decade, I felt like I belonged. I learned that I wasn't defined by my past, by the cruelty I had endured. I was defined by my resilience, my capacity for kindness, and my unwavering hope for a better future. The scars from my time with Aunt Carol are still there, but they no longer hurt. They are just a reminder of the strength I never knew I had. My story isn't one of tragedy, it's a story of survival. It's about finding light in the darkest of places and realizing that the most powerful love of all is the love you learn to give yourself. Thank you for listening to my story. If you've been through something similar, please know you are not alone and your past does not define your future. Remember to subscribe for more stories of strength and resilience.